Hello and welcome to another episode of Future Chat. I'm joined. We talked actually last week about how we wouldn't be joined by Nick, but we are joined by our senior contributor, Nick Maddox. Nick, how you doing?
I'm eating donuts.
I'm glad you snuck a reference into eating from the very beginning. So really all that means is I've now abdicated of any responsibility for editing out chewing sounds.
Let me get right in there.
All tweets and or emails should be sent to at NWA Maddox. Or if you know
Also,
his email address.
I mean, I probably would have come in with a little more enthusiasm on that opening, but
Yeah.
you do you.
Yeah.
Once every 3 weeks or so.
Exactly. So last week, we did not follow up at all on the Worldwide Developer Conference that Apple had. And I feel very strongly, badly about that. Can you use two adverbs in a row? So, Mike, you and I sat down for about an hour at the week before, at the end of the week before WWDC. I guess it was the beginning, to do a draft of stuff we were expecting to see or had heard we might see at WWDC. And what, pray tell, were the results of that draft?
By your count, we tied.
By my count. I noticed it's been 2 weeks and you haven't questioned any of mine or even mentioned the fact that we did a draft and I scored it.
Well, I haven't finished watching the keynote, and I have no intention of finishing watching it. But
So you're just taking my word for it.
I'm gonna have to take your word for it. It looks legit. I actually didn't even realize I got a point for the dual camera system thing. So I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah, they opened up initially.
Wait, you gave yourself a point for the visual refresh?
Are you kidding me?
Rob,
Every app got a visual refresh. They mentioned the App Store is a brand new design that everything else lined up with.
that is not the same as iOS 11 visual refresh.
Mike,
just because the App Store got...
If you watch the entire keynote, you will agree with me.
I think if you want an impartial third opinion, you have one.
Nick, you're never
right
ever going to
here.
watch the keynote.
Yeah, no, but I can make a judgment call.
What? I don't think you can.
Supreme Court justices don't see the crime that happened. They just hear about it and they make a decision.
But Mike hasn't informed himself to make any arguments.
I also listened to the episode in full.
Yeah, I know.
And like in the middle of it, I thought to myself, wow, it's really cool that they're so interested and passionate in this, because like I can hear it in their voices. I don't understand how they can be so passionate and interested in it, but it's neat that it can happen.
Yeah.
Also, I take Mike's side. Mike,
So,
congratulations.
What's his argument?
Won the WWDC draft.
thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. What Siri Kit advances are you giving yourself point for as well?
The new actions they have?
The new actions.
Yeah. They introduced 2 or 3 new actions. I was annoyed that it was so few, but all I said
I was going to
was
say, like,
new actions.
wasn't your point in the draft that it would be like something much more that you wanted?
Something much more that I wanted, but my actual vote is Siri Kit advances with new actions. Not just that Siri got better, but that there were new things that developers could use.
So refresh my memory of what you're referring to with that.
Like developers being able to, with different types of apps, being able to tie into Siri and get responses.
Like what?
Well, they like the main one that I'm thinking of that they showed on stage was reminders, but there are several others.
Okay. I'll give you that. The visual refresh though, that's a contentious point.
Okay, but you didn't watch it. If you watch it, and
I
then,
watched.
so what's your argument that they didn't introduce a visual refresh if you didn't watch it?
See, now you're just using that as leverage. You're like, well, you didn't watch it, so you can't prove me wrong.
No, but I was saying that I watched it and there was mention of the visual refresh on stage.
Of the App Store, maybe not, but not the operating system.
No, but and the entire like the operating system was redesigned, and the App Store got an overhaul as part of that.
That's just you projecting that comment or reading between the lines.
Look at how it is.
This isn't a draft about how things are. This is a draft about what they say on stage.
No, but if you go and look at the App Store, it got a visual refresh, and all the other apps got that same visual refresh. I don't understand how you can separate those things.
Nick, you can vouch for this, but during the episode where we drafted, we used the example saying they'd have to say, and in iOS 11, everything gets a visual refresh. Not, hey, the App Store looks different. And then be like, oh, that means iOS 11 got a visual refresh. That's not the same.
I will go and find a pull quote.
On this specific item, I've pulled up the quote I want. It's from former Major League Baseball player Oscar Gamble. They don't think it be like it is, but it do. Mike, I think you lost the point on that one. Rob just wanted a visual refresh. I think he gets that point.
2 minutes ago, you just agreed with me.
That was on something different, wasn't it?
No, that's the same thing.
No, having heard the details of the visual refresh, I think I have to give it to Rob. Sorry, Mike, you're tied.
I gave you a pity point because, again, I'll have to listen to our draft episode, but I gave you a point for Apple TV getting at least one new content provider partnership. And I feel like we agreed that Amazon didn't count because they actually pre-announced it before. But
no, at the last second, we definitely said including Amazon,
which is crazy because
I'm going to give that one to Mike.
And that's
I gave it to Mike as well.
That's no less obvious than the APFS thing.
Well, before you said at the time, you said, "Wow, good call on that one."
No, that was on the Apple Wallet.
The peer-to-peer payments. You said both.
No, not the APFS thing.
Mm-hmm.
The peer-to-peer payments. I was actually very impressed that you got that one.
It's 2020 on that one.
The APFS thing, that was an obvious thing.
Yeah. The bigger free iCloud storage thing is also maybe worth mentioning because while there's no bigger free iCloud storage, there is now a bigger tier, and you can share your iCloud storage between people in an Apple family. So That's both bizarre. Picked it. It's not what either of us would get a point for, but
right.
What a strange system.
Good stuff. What do you mean? How is that being able to share cloud storage between family members?
I think it's awesome.
Still not enough cloud storage.
No, it's not. It doesn't count as a point. It's just interesting in that realm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I was surprised that Mac OS didn't go to 11.
Mm-hmm.
But it also kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I agreed with the logic of it. Like the reasoning that we never hear about, but that was theorized afterwards.
Right.
Yeah. Not wanting to be forced to be on a yearly cycle because iOS is on a yearly cycle makes perfect sense.
Yeah. What was the improved support for the dual camera system? I didn't get that far into the keynote.
Developers have access to the depth information now. So they can do whatever they want. Like one of the things they showed was, those apps that came out that let you do the fake bokeh, but badly?
No.
When the idea of fake depth of field was first kind of put into apps?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, that was a thing. And it worked okay in some cases, but not very well in others. In most cases, so with this new developer access, you can like set filters to just apply to parts of an image that are at a certain depth, but it actually uses a visual depth map because there are two cameras. And so they showed off a couple different things you could do in terms of how you could apply a filter like that and make it actually make a good looking picture. But basically it was exactly what Jason theorized when he wrote it, is support for how the two cameras can work together. And that's what there was. I like all of Mike's throwaway picks. that Apple would never do. Looking back, it's like, oh, that would be cool if they did that, but they're just never going to.
Also, okay, so they didn't do the Hey Siri for the Mac.
That I still like we said at the time,
Yeah.
weird that it was not already included. Still weird that it isn't included now.
iTunes didn't get broken up. Apple Photos wasn't cross-platform.
Yeah.
That was the stretch one.
Those are the 4 picks, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Your health app for the Apple Watch, that was a bit too specific. Like they
Yeah.
still had the health focus, but it wasn't a new app.
that's too vague. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have given myself credit to pick that.
Yeah. I was actually surprised they didn't go anything with the photo syncing or sharing, though they did
Yeah.
allow for the metadata
The metadata,
to
yeah.
be shared. Yeah, for the face matching and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although I do like that metadata would rhyme. Still think it's meta.
Yeah, they we did learn a few things at the talk show live where John Gruber interviewed 2 Apple executives about things like as opposed to something like Google, which will learn algorithmically, kind of like with regards to metadata and photos, it'll learn algorithmically and then it'll apply that learning to your entire library. The way the Apple Photos metadata syncing works is that it only takes, if you explicitly tag a photo as being X person, or if you explicitly make a tag, that specific information will get synced, that photo is that person. But then any machine learning still only happens on each individual device. So it wouldn't learn that, say, there's 35 photos in your library that are tagged from that face based on that one tag you made, and then apply that branch of learning to all the devices. It'll take that one photo you tagged, teach the photos on that one device that there are 35 photos of that person, and then transfer the metadata from that one photo you tagged to the other devices and do the same thing. So it's slightly more syncing than before, but still not a lot of actual data is synced between. It's information isn't assumed. It's kind of generated on the fly on each device still.
Like they're still making the devices do the work.
Yeah.
You're referring to Apple here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Google, takes anything it learns and applies it everywhere.
Yeah. Fun note on Google, it started asking me, wait, which are these people?
Yeah.
And it's funny, but biometrics shouldn't change that much, but through the years it started to recognize who I am.
Mm. But
it started to ask me who the sprite in Pokemon Go is.
Yeah, me too.
Because I have a few screenshots and it's like, who's this person?
We're about 5 years away from Nick, you look nice today, which I think we talked about in a past episode too.
I don't know what you mean.
Nice.
Although I'm also, nope, it's gone. Too early. Not enough coffee. Sorry.
It's okay.
This week's Nick brought to you by a combination of Maxwell House instant coffee in the rich dark roast flavor. And also Kaya for moving me to a new apartment.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
Yeah,
thank you.
It's nice
much nicer.
Your internet worked out too.
Although I killed my pepper yesterday and put it out on the big balcony, and it was not ready for that amount of sunlight.
It's gone after one day.
I thought I'd hardened it off, but it was hardened off in mostly shade. Huh. And I put it out for like an hour or two. I went to see it, and it's still green, but I think it's gonna die.
Oh no. That seems fast. It seems like they should be able to survive an hour in sunlight.
No, no, not when they're not ready for it.
Huh.
I know you don't garden much or
at all, ever.
But if you raise plants inside without exposure to ultraviolet light, they can't handle ultraviolet light unless they're exposed to it from
the lamp.
Either like being a seedling, like if they are exposed once they breach the surface of the soil, then it'll be fine. they'll figure it out.
Right.
But I think I've heard it's like a waxy kind of coating that they build up to deal with ultraviolet light. And if they don't have that, it just kills the poor little thing.
Fair enough.
Now I won't have delicious peppers from that specific seedling.
That's unfortunate.
We'll see if I can sprout something and take advantage of the solstice warmth.
Mm-hmm. So,
and on that somber note,
overall, Mike, are you satisfied with this, or are you still contesting officially the which one were we talking about?
Your visual refresh?
Yeah, the visual refresh, that's the one. Are you still formally contesting it? So I have to go find a quote where it says visual refresh for the system? Because
we'll call that one half a point, but then your peer-to-peer is worth like 1.5 because it was a good call.
So all I'm going to say is that unequivocally there was a visual refresh in the system. What we're checking is that they said it. Because there absolutely was. Like without a question at all.
Even like icons and
everything.
Like, okay. Sure. Anyway, that's beside the point. I'm curious about what you think about the iPad developments. I think that was a fairly anticipated move for Apple to make, was to make the iPad more desktop computer-like, at least in its usability. Yes. And they definitely took a step in that direction with some of the stuff they implemented, like with the multitasking functionalities.
Yeah.
That made a lot of people happy.
Yeah. The multitasking, I would say, is of all the iPad improvements, the least kind of groundbreaking, or the least for a tablet, but kind of mostly because things like Samsung and I guess Android in general have had that for a while, the being able to move stuff around and have multiple windows on the same time. It is more flexible now.
Drag and drop, I don't recall being an Android thing.
No, drag and drop isn't. I'm saying multitasking. No. Multitasking, right. Having different windows open at the same time.
Just from like being able to view two things at once. Yeah, that's been a thing for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Multitasking is the least groundbreaking because that ground has been mostly broken
already. It's groundbreaking for iPad though.
It's more variable. Like you can do more with it, and it's definitely better. But they made evolutionary steps, not revolutionary this time. Last year was the revolutionary, where they enabled you to have split screen, and you could slide an app over the top. And now the apps behave much more like windows, and you can move them around, and you could, if you wanted, you could very easily, like if you have two windows side by side, you could actually switch their spots easily. We don't have like I was talking about in our draft episode, you don't have the one window that's your main window and the other one that's your secondary window. They can now swap spots easily without anything breaking like it would have before if you tried to do something like that.
Right.
But I've been using the first beta for 2 weeks now, and while it's definitely very buggy and not at all complete yet, even now what you can do is extremely powerful. Like, I don't know if you've seen some of the videos showing off, but currently in the desktop paradigm, which is the kind of the strongest way to do drag and drop and have multi-window support and all that, the most you can do is drag one thing at a time. Like you can select multiple items, but you can perform a drag from one spot to a second spot. But with iOS multitasking now on the iPad, you can actually go and select a photo, add a few more photos to it. So now you have like 4 or 5 photos under one finger. You can go into a separate app, use a second finger, and select a URL, and then close that app, open a new app with your other hand. So now you have 2 things dragged, saved under your finger. You can go and open up, I don't know, a reminders list, copy a bunch of text from a reminders list with a third finger. So now you're holding 3 different sets of content under 3 different fingers, go into a 4th app, and then drop in any order, like 1 set of things, 2 set of things, 3 set of things.
How do you selectively pick what things you're dropping?
By letting go with your finger.
how does it know? Is it back in the same order? Like,
Your
because
three
all these
finger,
things are under one finger though.
no, they're all under
Oh,
three separate fingers.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
So you can do that for as many fingers as you have. You can, like, the people have tried to stretch it out, and right now it only really works through a few select apps, through a few select types, like mostly Apple's apps, because things like setting up things like having the ability to drag stuff across apps, a developer is willing to set up, but just seeing what it's capable of, and like they did a demo with Adobe, setting up a bunch of different a bunch of their apps to take advantage of these features. Like you can move brushes and you can move like color palettes across apps with Adobe just by setting up a few extra lines of code. Like it's really, really cool and powerful stuff. And it will make things much, much easier moving forward. I noticed the WordPress app, which I use to, like, our website runs on WordPress. One of the things they enabled in the most recent update is being able to upload media directly to your media library through iOS, which seems like it should have been, like, it would have been very easy to do that in isolation before. But with drag and drop, you'll now be able to take advantage of all kinds. Like you could control your entire media library through a web browser and the WordPress app. Like you could do anything you wanted. The possibilities are literally more than I can think about, and I've had it for 2 weeks already. Like I can't imagine what developers are gonna be able to do that we can't even envision yet. It's gonna be cool.
I was listening to Download, and they're talking about the new, was it the Files app,
Yeah.
and how they have a tab for like your device,
Yeah.
like, or a thing for your device. And Jason was like, where does that go though? Like, what folder is that? And it's funny because it's like on Android, like I'm so used to just saving things directly onto my device. Like it has its own just root folder structure, right?
Yeah.
But it was funny. It's like, oh, I don't know. We'll have to see. Like, it's not that like crazy of a concept to have things stored on your device locally. Like it's just, it'll have a folder somewhere in there saying whatever. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. We had iCloud Drive before, but it was an explicit cloud storage, like any other, like send to Google Drive or send to OneDrive.
Yeah.
Interestingly, that Files app will also have tie-ins so you'll be able to manipulate cloud files on the system natively, as opposed to having to go to cloud storage to get files and bring them in and then deal with them and then send them to another provider or send them to a website or whatever. You'll be able to actually go in and manually do it. And I'm also super excited to be able to do that. It's not, again, like this is early beta, so not everything is put in. So all you have access to is iCloud Drive, but I've already used it several times now to, like, I'm actually using iCloud Drive for the first time. I never saw any value in it whatsoever before, other than saving app data. But
well, you just bought more storage too, right?
I bought more storage because they didn't give us more free storage.
Right. And
it's only 99 cents a month for 50 gigabytes. So it's like, now I can have my devices backed up and I can have extra storage for stuff. So it was the fact that I didn't really use it before that made me not feel like I needed to. But now, especially running betas, I want to have backups of stuff because it's always really annoying. I've already had to fix my iPad once because it just crapped out and wouldn't reboot properly.
This is somewhat unrelated or semi-tangentially related, that Google Drive announced that they were going to start allowing people to have essentially full backups of a computer as their Google Drive folder structure. Which is kind of how I already use Google Drive. Like I save everything in my Google Drive folder and then have all my computer subfolders in that Google Drive folder. So I probably wouldn't necessarily switch over to doing, like, I kind of like having a separate Google Drive folder to know what stuff is being synced instead of having to select which ones I want to sync and then have to remember to add new folders if I want to sync it. But I think for someone who, say, bought like a terabyte of Google Drive storage, just wants kind of not having to think about what's being backed up and what's not, then you can just point your backup to the entire, like, I don't know if you can point it to the entire C drive or whatever, but you can in essence just treat it the same way you would like Backblaze, where you just
Wait,
anything that you have on your computer would get backed up.
well, the way that this backup and sync or whatever it is going to be called from Drive, the way it works is it actually it works like Backblaze. You set it up and it will just back everything on your hard drive up.
Well, you still have to select. I didn't understand exactly from the article I read on it, but it looks similar to how it works now, where you can choose certain folders within the drive folder to back up or not back up when you have like the client running on your PC.
You should read the actual post because that you can already do.
No, I know, but now you don't have to have it within the actual drive folder, because you have to create a drive folder and like point it on your computer saying this is going to be
Yeah.
that, like, it sets up a drive folder, and then you throw stuff in there, and then once it's in there, you can choose whether to back it up or not, like sync it to your cloud storage. But what I understood with this is that now you don't need a dedicated drive folder. You just tell your client which folders on your computer you want backed up.
Right. And by default,
But-
it's all of them.
So if I create a new folder, will that automatically get backed up?
Yes.
That's what I don't know. That wasn't clear from what I read.
It is. That's,
Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be very much like Backblaze. I'm not sure how they'll do. Like I've said from the one time that I had to recover my hard drive from Backblaze, it's not ideal because it only does one-way kind of bulk syncing of data from your computer to their servers. You can't go and download the entire contents of your hard drive or say like, I want to resync all my Backblaze stuff to this hard drive. You have to download it in zip things or have them send you a new drive. But with Google Drive, I could very easily see them using the same Google Drive model where you would say, I got a new computer, make my hard drive structure like the one on my old computer that was backed up.
Mm-hmm. Like a
And-
restore functionality kind of thing.
Yeah. So as opposed to saying, I want this folder backed up and subfolders inside of it and having everything else by default not be backed up, it's the opposite where you'd have everything is backed up and you can selectively say, I don't want this folder backed up.
Right.
Which in my view is much better as a backup system.
I agree. It's funny. I was reading this thing on Reddit the other day, one of those Tales from Tech Support posts, and someone had talked to this IT guy and said, "Oh, like I'm trying to recover my data, whatever." And it's like, "Okay, like, do you have a backup?" It's like, "Oh yeah, it's on." It's like, "Oh, that's what's failed. It's like this external drive." And it's like, "Okay, well, like, is it still on like your main drive in the computer?" And it's like, "Oh no, I was told just to have it on the external drive." And it's like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "Oh no, I talked to whoever and they said like, oh, make sure that you save all your stuff on an external drive." So
Right.
their main computer drive was empty, except for the operating system, but any files and stuff were on this external drive. So she misunderstood the idea of backing up onto an external drive. Like she thought it meant just solely keep everything on the external drive. Don't have it on the main drive, which is like the worst advice because external drives are so vulnerable to corrupting.
I don't know if it's the worst advice.
That's
but it's
pretty
definitely
bad
not the best
advice.
advice.
But well, that's the point, is that she misunderstood the advice, because the guy probably said, "Oh, make sure you save everything on the external drive or on an external drive, not save it on the
Only
main
save
drive
it
and
to
an
the
external
external
drive backed up."
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if you have the cloud storage, you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
It's there.
For now, until there's some major outage and all the stuff gets lost by a major provider.
Now, what happens if it rains? Does that affect the cloud storage? What about a thunderstorm? Cloud to cloud lightning accounts for most of the lightning that occurs, and I'm just curious as to how that affects the cloud storage.
You've got to stand outside with a bucket and catch the data that's falling out.
Oh God, well that's a lot of work. I don't think I should be paying the Google to store my data if I have to go and collect it every time it rains. What if I'm not home to collect it? And you stick a USB stick in the bucket of data? How does this work? Oh yes, and we're done.
No,
Okay,
I really like your old man Nick.
I had fun.
Yeah. So for people who haven't been keeping up with this, June 28th is when this rollout starts, which is way faster than I expected when they announced it. And apparently it just replaces the Google Drive app, and it also replaces the Google Photos uploader. So it'll all kind of be one utility now.
Oh, nice. That'll be good.
Yeah. I think you have to opt in if you're on a Google admin, or I guess they call it G Suite now, plan. So I've done everything I think I can to opt in currently. So on the 28th it comes out, but I'm very excited, and I'm probably going to be turning this on and might be upgrading my storage. I still don't really know how I want to do this, because I'm intrigued by OneDrive because it works really well with especially Windows, but with other stuff as well. You can back up your entire computer. Now Google Drive is getting better. Now iCloud storage is being able to be more easily shared, and you can get 2 terabytes for $10. They're all competing very strongly for my heart.
It's a free market for you.
Yeah.
That is,
Well,
I think
at
that
this
is
point-
actually a really good example of a genuinely free market, unlike many examples which are not in fact free markets.
Yeah. It seems that way.
At this point, though, you can get rid of Backblaze, right? Once you
Well,
switch
not
over to
now,
it.
but in theory,
No,
yes.
but yeah.
I'm still not sure that I would. Well, first of all, I signed up for a 2-year plan to get a reduced rate. So I've already paid for it, like whatever $2 a month it was, because I signed up for such a long time with a discount. But so I'll keep it for that term, definitely. But after that, I still like the idea of offsite. If I need a hard drive with my data on it, FedEx to me, like overnighted, to have that option.
Is it overnighted in Canada? I thought that was just US.
Well, it might be like 2 days, but it's like expedited shipping
Mm-hmm.
that you pay for along with the drive, which the cost of the drive is refunded if you
Return it
return it within 30 days.
at your own cost.
Yeah. Which makes, I would probably just keep the drive because
That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So on the topic, was there anything else you wanted to talk, Mike, about with regards to WWDC? Because most of my stuff was about iOS and like the iPad advances we talked about.
Yeah, I think. Well, they did the Siri speaker as well.
Mhm.
I guess we hadn't talked about that yet, and that was again a fairly expected announcement. I thought it was interesting how it turned out to be a Sonos competitor instead of a Google
Well.
Home Echo competitor. Don't
It's more than Sonos, but not much more.
that the angle they're taking is
Yeah.
for the Sonos market. They're not trying to compete with Home and Echo. Like they are, but they're not.
Yeah, every
Ye-
time they want to announce a product that does more than one thing that their competitors do, but all in the same product, you know that it's going to be more expensive than any of those products individually, but at least quite a bit less than the sum of each of those individual products. So what they did when they announced the HomePod, because you're not going to watch the rest of the keynote, is they said you're like a typical hi-fi speaker, like
Right.
Sonos,
Yeah.
is $300 or $350, and the typical voice assistant is somewhere in the $100 to $150 range.
Right.
As they said, you could expect to pay, like this is infomercial time, you could expect to pay around $500 for this device, and we're making ours only $350. Like they undercut by building up, but if they just said it's $350, a lot of people would go, wow, that's really expensive, like they did with the AirPods.
That's exactly what I'm saying. You'd have to
Yeah.
already be in the market for a Sonos
Yeah.
or just a high quality speaker already.
Exactly.
If you're considering this as a comparative purchase.
Yeah.
And then there's speculation, like other, I guess you could call them pundits or just enthusiasts have been kind of speculating that the next generation will see possibly like a economic version of the Siri speaker, maybe if they feel that they want to compete more with the Google Home or the Echo market. Though there's arguments to be made for say that they're trying to stay in that upper tier and not like that they've historically done that,
Yeah.
like with tablets and with phones. So why would they do any different when it comes to this kind of thing?
Yeah.
But yeah, like they're definitely advertising the sound aspect. Like they really didn't say much about how well it picks up your voice. They didn't say anything about how well it responds to your questions to it from an AI standpoint. Like they said that Siri will answer music questions. Like it's got, I guess, a fairly expansive knowledge graph on music related type info.
Yeah.
But it's really weird. Like it's in between being like a home assistant and being like a good speaker / music player,
Right. Like
which
in
is
terms
fine.
of,
Like,
yeah. In terms of standalone speakers, it's very good. Like in terms of like mono audio source, its intelligence does make it pretty competitive in that market. But it remains to be seen how many people are going to pay $350 for something that mostly just does music and might be able to respond and like set timers or make reminders or whatever. Like all these basic Siri functionalities for like first party apps.
yeah.
You're not going to be able to call an Uber on your HomePod.
Because from what I've heard, it doesn't even have Bluetooth. So you can't even hook up like
I
another
think that's
device to
unknown
just
so far.
route audio through it.
I think it will have Bluetooth by the end for iOS devices.
I'd hope it would at least. What do you mean for at least? No, for any device. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well,
is
no,
that you should be able to hook up like a computer or a phone or whatever, regardless of the platform, and play music through it if you're paying that much
maybe.
for it. They're probably not going to, but I'm saying that I'd hope that it would.
I think you'll be able to Bluetooth, like you'll be able to connect it to your iPhone to be able to play music from other sources, like Spotify or whatever. If you have an iPhone hooked up to it, and the protocol it will use will be Bluetooth, but they'll probably just use AirPlay too. Like they'll probably just use their proprietary stuff that happens to connect over Bluetooth. I don't
They
think you'll
already
be able to
said that
pair an
it's only going
Android
to play
device
Apple
with it.
Music stuff.
Sorry?
They already said it's only going to play Apple Music.
Well, the HomePod itself in isolation will only play Apple Music, but if you connect it through if you AirPlay to it through your phone, you'll be able to play.
Oh, well, you're talking AirPlay, and I'm just saying like just basic Bluetooth connectivity to just a generic, just whatever random device.
Yeah, I don't think it'll have that.
Right.
Whether that's
so
a loss or not.
I don't think that makes it a compelling purchase.
Well, it doesn't to you, and I wouldn't expect it to be a compelling purchase for you anyways. And it's not a compelling purchase for me.
But even for someone who's going to stick this in their kitchen or the living room and want it to be like a flexible device just for someone like to come in and be able to play something on it, if you have to like have AirPlay functionality, it only plays Apple Music potentially. But yeah, if what you're saying ends up being the case that you can AirPlay anything to it, just route audio to it through AirPlay, then that's fine, I guess. But again, yeah, it doesn't make it a very compelling purchase for.
I don't think they're trying with this product to get customers that aren't already customers of Apple. I don't think they're trying to get new customers that this is their first Apple device.
Right. And I think that kind of plays back into the idea that they're not trying to compete with the Echo and the Home.
Right.
Not
trying
to
to
say
compete with
that,
Sonos, but not with the Echo.
right. Not to say that the Echo and the Home are expanding much outside of their existing demographic that have invested in their products already, right? I think that's kind of been the case already, that if you're fairly deep into Google, you'll most likely get the Google Home. If you're not, then maybe you'll go with the Echo. But yeah, we'll see how this turns out and what the second gen, if we see a second gen, what it brings.
Yeah.
Or what additional functionality is revealed come September.
Yep. Totally agree. Well, come September, you mean come December?
Well, if they may announce something in September for the Siri speaker, yeah, December when it's released anyway.
All I would say on that is if they were going to announce something in September for the HomePod, why would they announce it in June and then say we'll have it for sale at the end of the year? Like, why wouldn't they have an event in the fall, like after the iPhone event in the fall, and say we're shipping on this date and here's all the stuff it can do now that it's a fully baked product.
So that people don't buy the first or possibly second gen Echo or Home in the meantime while they're waiting to see if Apple even does anything in this space. Because that's what you kept hearing, is that people anticipated that at WWDC you'd hear something about a speaker. So that if someone's considering getting a Home Assistant, they're saying, hang tight, wait till we see WWDC. But if they didn't announce anything, it's like, okay, I guess I'll buy an Echo. Like,
so you think they would pre-announce it twice in the matter of like?
I'm
3
not saying
months?
they pre-announce it. I'm just saying that they announce at WWDC so that people expect it, and then possibly in September they'll tie something into, like, say, like you said with a phone about AirPlaying, right? And they'll say, oh, and you can AirPlay to the Siri speaker
once it's out in December.
Once it's out in December.
But they wouldn't be talking about the HomePod then.
No, they just kind of hint
Yeah.
at additional
They would just
features
mention
and
it.
functionality of the speaker,
Maybe.
possibly, like as it relates to the products they're announcing in September.
Right. Yeah, I could see that.
We'll save that for the draft.
So, was there anything else on WWDC, or should we let Nick get his very belated follow-up? Very important, but very belated.
Yes. Let's move to our space follow-up.
Actually, I thought of something else I could talk about too.
Sure.
So,
If you feel it's more important.
you know how every so often my connectivity just really seems to drop down and I just got like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're all familiar. So the Shaw Tech comes in yesterday, looks at my setup, because I guess they do that. I thought when the internet came on, that was just it, and I was happy. But no, they're like, no, we'll get a tech to come out and look at it. It's like, I mean, there's a cable in the wall and a plug in the wall. I don't know what could be improved upon, but sure, okay. So the guy comes in, looks at the setup, and goes, "Oh, it's a bad cable. It's a good thing I came by." It's like, it's the cable that came with the modem a year ago. And he's like, "No, we'll upgrade it to this one that I have in my hand here." And I was like, "Yeah, like, is it not good?" Or he's like, that one's it tends to drop the signal a lot." I was like, interesting. Very interesting. So look for future chat to improve on my end.
So he
You
could
do
tell
look-
just by looking at the cable?
Like the one
It's probably the brand, right?
I don't know, but the one he put in is noticeably thicker.
Huh.
So was it not like a Cat 5e cable that you had originally?
It's a coax cable.
Oh, what? Coax into your modem?
Cable.
Modem.
Cable internet
Oh, wait.
into the modem.
Oh, okay. So this isn't fiber.
No.
Most fiber is fiber to the home, and at least currently, you get fiber all the way up to your home, and then once you're in the home, it's cable. And we never heard from Mike again.
True story.
He'll never learn his lesson.
While we have some dead air,
Mine's not coax.
what is it?
It's not a cat cable
Like
though.
to the modem?
Yeah.
Well, your new build probably means you have newer infrastructure. Like there are different types of fiber setups depending on how old
Right.
the actual buildings are. And so if they're retrofitted to have fiber, they usually go coax into the house. But if yours is newer, then you could have fiber
Right.
actually hooked up into your house.
Right. And it might be different, Nick being in a apartment where the wiring's
be.
different, possibly between the units.
That's entirely possible.
Yeah.
Also, one other thing. Been looking up some stuff, and I thought when I got to Edmonton that the roundabouts were weird. They're weird.
How so?
have you ever seen a traffic light inside a traffic circle or a roundabout?
No.
No, because that defeats the purpose. Why would you have that? Why would that ever be a thing that you do?
To avoid left turns, I guess.
It just the entire or the entire thing comes to a dead halt, which is exactly the thing that a traffic circle is supposed to solve.
That's weird.
Yes. Yes, it is. Also, they have this thing where like if you're looking to turn or go straight through or go left, they want you to go into the inside lane. It's a 2-lane roundabout. They want you to go into the inside lane and then exit to the leftmost lane of the straight through or left, which is not how they work anywhere else in the entire world.
Right.
Okay, so we have one in the adjacent neighborhood to us that works the same way, that if you're going to go straight or left, you want to be on the inside lane. But if you're just turning right, then you see in the outside lane. But I never understood how you're supposed to exit the circle from the inside lane. Like, that sounds like a recipe for getting T-boned.
Yeah. Because you have people in the rightmost lane that might be wanting to carry through,
Right.
but you're supposed to just like swing on past.
Yeah.
What a roundabout is supposed to do is you enter into the outermost lane and use the inside lane as a passing lane if need be. That's my understanding anyway. That's how it works everywhere else in the entire world, but not here.
Right. So that always seemed weird to me. This is the only traffic circle I've ever really encountered that wasn't just a simple 1-lane roundabout, which is straightforward. But yeah, the 2-lane ones, this is the only one I've ever seen, and it's asking you to go into the inside lane if you're going to go straight or left. It's like, okay, so now I'm going to like try to cut off these cars that are in the right-hand lane. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
You just have to like wait until it's completely clear, I guess, to go.
Right.
That sounds so weird. Like, that's not actually a roundabout. It kind of maybe looks like one, but it's not in principle.
Yeah. So I've finally found something about Alberta that just drives me up the wall.
It's a matter of time.
Clearly.
So do you want to tell us what's now known about this? I mean, it is follow-up from 1977, but it is very important.
Yeah, no, anyone familiar with the WOW signal will have already heard about this a long time ago. But like we said, a long time ago, specifically 1977, was it SETI that was doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence was listening on various frequencies, I imagine. And they just got a super loud signal all of a sudden. So where all their other signals are usually in the 1 to 4 range, they got a high of Q. And it's known as the WOW signal because someone literally circled that spot and wrote WOW next to it.
It's a high of U. Or does this alphabet work the same way where a U just has to follow a Q, but it doesn't mean anything?
It's early. So he actually circled it and in red pen wrote WOW next to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out that can be explained by a comet. Because a comet came nearby not long ago and someone measured on the same frequency and it generated similar signals. So not aliens. Again. That is my story.
So the idea being that this was the same comet that...
yes, I think so. They waited for it to swing around again.
Yeah.
Yep. Orbits every 7 years or so.
Yeah.
So it came by.
And then it also notes that the comet was only discovered in 2006. So it wasn't considered as a possibility of the source of that signal initially. So
apparently these are the characters. I just went and looked because I was curious. It's a unitless signal to noise ratio. with each character like first going through 0 through 9 and then up through the alphabet in order. Each is a multiple of signal to noise. So U being between 30 to 31 times higher than the
Guys,
usual
I might
noise.
have some breaking news. Just hold on. I'm actually going to cut you off and talk elsewhere.
Is it about the wow signal?
I'm cutting you off.
Okay.
So while we stand by waiting for this breaking news, why don't you finish explaining this signal to noise ratio?
I do like how he had to cut me off. I was like, oh, you're going to interrupt us but no, he's just leaving. Yeah, so each character is an extra multiple of intensity over the background noise. And so this was 30 times stronger at its peak than the background noise, which like that's substantial. And it was over. Sorry?
It's a linear scale then. Not
yes.
logarithmic.
Yeah. I was thinking it might have been exponential, but
right.
The signal, it peaked. Like I think they measure every 12 seconds or 10 to 12 seconds or so. And it peaked.
Guys.
Oh no.
Now that I've finally hit the button and it recognized that I was hitting the button to re-enable the microphone, we have some breaking Pokemon Go news from the field.
Our gym's
as
down.
yet unverified. A friend in Calgary claims to have caught a Mr. Mime. We're awaiting updates on whether it was a hatch or a wild catch, but she's not been to Europe recently.
Has she spoofed recently?
Now, I don't mean to disparage this person, but she doesn't strike me as the type to have the technical know-how to spoof.
I think you're overestimating the amount of technical know-how required to spoof.
No. So we could have news on regionals, or no news at all.
Are you sure this is not a jinx that she caught?
Given that she lives in Calgary, I'm pretty sure she knows what a jinx looks like.
So I just got word from my research team that this tornado warning I mentioned at the start of the episode is apparently a thing, and I am being asked by my staff to leave early if possible. And I'm going to take them up on that offer. Not that there's necessarily any touchdown or anything, but that we're going to get moving on our day's plans earlier than scheduled.
I was going to say, yeah, right. It's an awful long time to get all the way down to the basement. I don't know if you should.
Well, no, we don't have a basement in our condo, so the lowest we could go is the second floor of the building.
Yeah, you better get down to that second floor.
Mm-hmm.
Could be
Nick,
perilous.
coming back to this Mr. Mime news.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that you guys can finish the show, but I'm going to go and deal with this.
Rob, are you going to collect a bunch of silver balls and drive out?
No, I'm not going to change.
And throw them into the tornado for science.
No,
not like connected or anything. Just silver balls, just whoosh. Wow, look, it's picking them up.
So because I'm in charge of the broadcast, I'm gonna end it. But you guys are welcome to continue as long as you need to.
Rob, I thought you were